So this is a vlog I've been meaning to make for quite a while now. So as you can see, we finally got our new wheelchair. Thank you so much to everyone who helped, whether it was making a donation or sharing. Every little bit counted, and I just need to say thank you to everyone who contributed. Now that we got the new chair, I am going to make my very own review of the Kaya Mobility Rogue. I'm doing this partly just because I really want to point out how much I love this chair, but also because when I got my first wheelchair, there was almost nothing out there specifically on this type of chair, and I love it, so I figured I'd make my own review. And I would just like to clarify that no one has asked me to make this video review. I'm not receiving anything for making this video. It's just, this was all my choice, and it's just something I've been wanting to do for a while. So let's get started. And in case you're wondering, Bugsy is right over here behind me, sleeping. So, let me just get more comfortable here. Okay. So I guess I will start out with the back. You can see that the back on this wheelchair is quite a bit different than my first back. It was a lot shorter and there was a lot less support. This is much more cushiony. I'm kind of still adjusting to the fact that it's so much taller. It's still pretty short. It doesn't get in the way of my shoulder blades or anything, which I love. And I do like the fact that there's quite a bit more support than my old one. It is a great back. I believe, yeah, it's called the Acta back. I don't know if you can read that. Ignore my bumper sticker there. It's taking some getting used to for sure after having such a short back on my first chair, but I do like it for a lot of reasons. It's very easy to remove, to take the piece off if you want to clean it. When I unload and load, the back actually does fold down like my old chair did, but because it's slightly taller and a bit more firm, I prefer to just take it off. I'm not sure if you can see, I don't know how good the lighting is in here. On each end there are just these two little levery things, and you just flip it up, flip each one back, and simply lift it out. It's as easy as that. It's so easy. Same as if you just want to put it in, you line these two things up with the holes that you pulled it out of. Just plop it in and flip the switches down and lock it into place. And that's it. It's very, very sturdy. It stays in place. That's how I prefer to unload it. But you can also see that once you have removed the cushions and the side guard, it pulls down as well. And the other thing I like about these backs and these chairs is that not only can you fold it down, but you can actually recline. And then when you're done reclining, you just pop it back up into place and it locks. So that's really nice, especially like when going to the movies and stuff. Next, I'll talk about the frame. As you can see, mine is candy blue. You can probably tell by the way I'm maneuvering the chair that it's extremely lightweight. One thing I like especially about these wheelchairs that I really haven't seen in any other chairs is how big the tubing is. It's kind of significantly bigger, but it doesn't feel like there's any added weight or bulkiness, I guess you could say. It doesn't feel like that. And I really like it. It's super sturdy. As most of you know, my first Rogue actually was able to withstand a hit and run. It did have some issues after, but it survived. And I can tell you that I don't think there are many wheelchairs out there that would have survived that particular incident. It was pretty rough. So the frame gets an absolute A+ from me. One thing I actually really like about the seat sling is I noticed in a bunch of other chairs over time they kind of start to sag, and this one doesn't. It's stayed really firm pretty much. Not specifically on this chair, but on my first Rogue. Over a long period of time it never seemed to weaken or stretch, which I really liked. Let's talk about the footplate next. I'm not sure if you can see, sort of. It's just like, it's a piece of tubing with a metal type of, actually it's plastic, I think. Yeah, it's just a piece of tubing with a cover on it. My first footplate was kind of like a metal grate. It was meant to be adjustable so that you could place it at different angles. And personally, I didn't like it because since I'm not paralyzed, when I transfer, I do put not much, but a very slight amount of weight down on my feet when I'm transferring. And because of that, no matter how tight I made it, it always bent down. So every time I got back in my chair, I would have to literally like go reach underneath and just like bend it back up into position, which was kind of frustrating. Other than that, it was a great footplate, but I do prefer this one just because it's a lot more solid. And the other thing about this chair is I had it raised up a little higher because in my first wheelchair I kept getting thrown from everything. I would hit a pebble like this big and I would get launched from my chair. So this chair is slightly better setup with the footplate. So next part is the wheels. Everyone has different preferences, different needs depending on what you do with your chair, how athletic you are, where you live, what type of terrain you're going to be on. I guess I'll just go over the features that I have on my wheels. You can see that I have mag wheels. The reason I have these is partly because they're extremely durable. They can, I mean, even I can't break these, and that's saying something. And I love them. They do add a slight amount of weight, but it's not drastic enough to be noticeable at all when moving. It's a bit noticeable when I'm loading in and out, but I've adjusted. In terms of actually propelling the chair, I really don't notice a difference at all. And because of the camber angle and everything else, it's a much easier ride. The other nice thing about that is no maintenance. I've never actually had spoke wheels ever, but I've been told that you have to tighten them and tune them up pretty frequently. My chair was essentially built to be as little maintenance as possible. I have solid inserts in my tires, and I prefer that just because, well, for a lot of reasons actually. Again, no maintenance. The other reason is it's just living in Maine, where they maybe repave the roads like once every 15 to 20 years. It's really difficult to manage with tires that actually have air in them. And not only that, but the tread wears down ridiculously fast. So I really love the solid tires. Some people might say that they're a bit too heavy, but again, my experience is that yes, they are heavier when loading and unloading, but once you've actually put your chair together, once you sit in it, and once you actually go on your way and start propelling yourself, you really don't notice it. You can see I have the natural fit hand rims and the thumb guards. A family member actually paid for those as a gift, so don't worry, you guys didn't pay for like that extra stuff. Some of you may not know, I have peripheral neuropathy in the right side of my body, and I can't feel, and if I mess up, which happens quite frequently, I end up missing the wheel altogether, and I will often jam my fingers and my knuckles in between the rim and the wheel itself and the tire. I've lost count of how many times I've broken my knuckles and fingers on that hand, and one of my family members was like, hey, let's get you the thumb guard. So that was really nice. So I originally thought I was just getting the thumb guard, but then I also got the natural fit. And the thumb guard is amazing, and obviously you know why, in my situation at least. The reason I like the natural fit hand rims is actually not because it's ergonomic or anything. In terms of actually grabbing them and using them, I really honestly don't notice much of a difference at all. I think this is one thing that people don't really think about, but on my first chair, I had the typical, like, they were silver. I think they were like aluminum, I'm not sure, or aluminum or metal or something. Just your typical basic hand rims. They were easy to use, they were fine, but my problem was that every time I would, hit a wall or go through a threshold badly or something, every time I bumped the sides of the hand rims on something, metal would actually start to peel off, or aluminum or whatever it was. And it didn't just flake off, it actually peeled off and constantly gave me like big ass splinters in my hands. And obviously this one didn't matter, but it was really painful for my left hand to constantly be pulling out like little slivers of metal. I have already hit it against a bunch of things and scuffed it up, and you can see there's a few scuffs and a few scratches, but the actual material on the outside is not coming off, it's not splintering off, and it's not becoming dangerous. So I really, really like that about the natural fit hand rims. I think that's, obviously not the reason someone would get them, but it's definitely a nice bonus. Sorry, buddy. I just hit him in the face. Anyway, these are the casters that I have. I actually have no idea what the measurement, like dimensions are of these, but I really like them. It's like the perfect size. They're big enough that they don't get caught in like every single little crack, but they're small enough that they don't get in the way, and they're not obtrusive, so I really like that. They work just fine, never had any problems. Occasionally, especially in my house, I do have to take it apart and clean out all the dog hair that gets stuck inside here. I have the under seat scissor lock brakes, and I love them. They take a little getting used to. I think the first week or so I kept not reaching in the right place and it was a little awkward, but once you get used to them, they're so easy to put on. You can tighten them and loosen them if they're too difficult or if you're weak or something. So I like that a lot, and I just especially like that they're out of the way. One problem that I have, especially on the loaner type hospital wheelchairs is the brakes that are out here. Every time I would wheel, especially since I don't always grab the handrem, I often wheel from the wheel itself when I'm going like off-road or really fast. I would constantly be jamming my thumbs against the piece that would stick out here. So I really like the underseat scissor lock brakes. They seem to be quite a bit stronger than the regular brakes, and they also just, don't break my thumbs on a regular basis. So that's really nice. There have been a few things that I didn't like that much about the chair. They were very minor, and most of those things were really just a matter of ordering like different types of things or different parts, really. Like, for example, the footplate, my first footplate, and that was really just because it was my first wheelchair ever. I really knew nothing about what I wanted, what would be comfortable long term especially. So my wheelchair rep kind of just built my first chair for me, and then now that I have the second chair, I was able to sort of go in and say, I would like that a little bit different. But again, really there was nothing about the Rogue that I didn't like that wasn't fixable. There was nothing that was ever really wrong with it. There are no, malfunctioning parts or anything. And that leads me to the last point I want to make. Kai Mobility is unbelievably amazing. Like, their customer service is so ridiculously good, it's not even funny. They go above and beyond. They have been so nice to me after everything that's happened. They've been trying to keep in touch with me, until I got the new chair, and they've been really helpful about everything. And just like another thing that happened, this was really the medical supply store's fault, but we were trying to salvage what we could from the old chair and save some money. So we had planned to transfer the old side guards to the new chair. And because we weren't actually ordering a new set of side guards, they didn't order the hardware to be able to put them onto this new chair. And that was all the medical supply company's fault. And now KI Mobility is going above and beyond to help fix the problem and help get me what I need. So that's really nice, and especially living in Maine without side guards, especially since it's been like 30 degrees all week and I can't wear a jacket because the ends get shredded in my wheels. So I do want to give them a huge shout out just for being great. I can personally say that the Rogue was my first wheelchair, not including my first crappy hospital wheelchair. It was my first custom-made wheelchair fit to me, and hopefully my last. But if I do need to continue being in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, I really honestly never want anything but another Rogue. Obviously, I like the product. I already know that it's going to fit me well, it's going to be comfortable for my needs. And the other big reason is that I trust them. A lot of people think the most important part of a wheelchair is comfort, and it's a huge part, it is. But especially in my situation, I need to trust the chair I'm in. I tried a bunch of others. I tried a few quickies, a bunch of the other big name brands that a lot of people have, and I just didn't feel safe. And in my situation where the last thing I need is to fall back and crack my head open again and stuff like that, it's a really important factor for me. So I really do trust this chair with my life. That is my review of the Kai Mobility Rogue. I tried to be completely honest. Frankly, there just isn't much bad about this chair that I can say at all. I do miss my old back. This one's growing on me, and I'm getting used to it, but I do miss my old back. I'll be honest about that. But there's nothing wrong with this one at all.